What's going on, guys? This is Mark with Anastacio. I'm joined here with Guru Sam. We're going to be demonstrating not only Anastacio curriculum, but also our mother system, Bias Tres Manos, 10 basic blocks and 10 basic strikes. It's one of the principal foundational drills, if you would call it a drill, that we teach our students here to help them understand the match made for each strike. So the 10 strikes helps you understand the coordination of the strikes, but then there's also 10 accommodating blocks. This lesson was something we did go over with my online students at anastaciokali.com. So if you are interested in training with us online, make sure you click the link below and give it a shot. So before we go into demonstrating what it is, basically the overview of it all is it's teaching you one method out of many. So you don't have to necessarily block or even engage the particular angle this way. It just gives you something to work with. And as an instructor, I'm a firm believer that, a lot of things can happen in the actual situation, but nothing is going to happen if you don't have a baseline or you don't have a guideline that you can refer to and build off of. Then through your personal preference, through your actual strengths in certain areas, those particular techniques are going to be applied more so than the generic technique. But as a student considering with zero experience or limited experience, you got to give them something to work with so that they have kind of even just a basic primary layer of understanding how you can meet or in certain cases defeat each particular angle. So we have 10, other systems have 14, 5, 8. The number doesn't really matter. It's just various angles and how we're going to approach it. So Guru Sam's going to be striking. I'm going to be demonstrating the blocks. One of the principles that we train with is my strike is my block is my strike. That is going to be more so apparent with our angle 1 and 2. And going a little bit more further with that, I want to strike to create the block. Because for me to work off of my initial block, particularly with these two angles, is next to near impossible. So technically I'm striking for 1 and 2, and then the rest of them will kind of play their own role. So angle 1, we meet with angle 1. Generally we do what we call a transition strike or block. Basically what I'm doing is I'm striking and then I'm checking. Okay, we go to number 2, it's almost the same thing. 3, we're going to look to jam on the inside. 4, we're going to jam on the outside. 5, we're going to meet. 6, we're going to meet. 7, I'm going to block and deflect. 8, I'm going to block and deflect. 9, I'm going to do a sombrado or umbrella strike. And 10, I do a vertical abanico, which is a whip-tick or fan strike. Okay, I'll show you that on the other side very quickly. So we start again from number 1, 2, 3, we jam. 4, we jam. 5, we meet. 6, we meet. 7, we parry. 8, we parry. 9, we deflect. And 10, we hit. Okay, now there's a couple of things that may arise in terms of discrepancies when you do the 10 basic strikes and 10 basic blocks. So the first thing is I don't want you to fall into the habit or the belief that every fight's going to end up like this. This is structured. These 10 basic strikes are structured in a particular way that we can flow. Okay, so each strike can be a follow-up, or it can also be its own situation. So once you kind of have the idea of the 10 basic strikes and the 10 basic blocks, you want to start isolating each one and see how you can work from there. And ideally from there you'll end up in a separate position, which again might be similar to another angle. So I'll break that down real quick. Let's say I do angle 1 here, I set this position. And then he reacts and he gives me another forehand strike, which is anything from his right side. So let's say he gives me a horizontal strike. Then from here, I can react with the same strike, or rather the same block that I'm going to be jamming with based off of the technique or the drill we've been showcasing. But I don't have to do it that way. If we look for number 1 again, and then I see that 3 coming, I might hit him across the face and start flowing my strikes. Right? That's where my preference will start to show. Okay, but again, in order to build a preference, in order to build what I quote as like the personality as a Filipino martial artist, or any martial artist in general, you got to have some structure, some foundational techniques that you can call upon in the event that I don't really know what to do, so my instinct kicks in, and then the first thing I do is probably the first things that I've been training since the moment I picked up a stick. And that applies with each and every follow-up, or rather each and every angle. So if he gives me an angle 1 from here, if he doesn't move, I can follow up, change to the outside. He gives me an angle 2, I can enter, I can go into a disarm, so on and so forth. We can go 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down to 10. Okay? So we're going to switch to our knives real quick. So we're going to show you the 10 basic strikes and the 10 basic blocks when it comes to the knife. Now, one of the biggest differences between the knife and the stick is that I can't, if you can give me an angle 1, I can't do this. We're not going to meet blade to blade, especially if they are short range weapons or close range weapons. It'd be a little bit different if it was a sword, but we're going to be using these wooden knife trainers, and they're, especially larger. There wouldn't be any really like pocket held knives in this sense, but just to give it a little bit more of an illustration. So what we look to do a lot of the times is we look to, again, strike to block. Especially because we're close quarters and we're knife, we do a lot of good things or dissecting strikes. So if he gives me an angle 1, I'm going to cut the bicep as I parry it over. 2, I cut and I check. 3, I'm going to step back and cut a higher line than his midline. I'm also going to arch my body and create distance to bypass the strike. So I cut here. I cut one more time for 4. 5, I'm going to step back and I'm going to cut. 6, I'm going to step back, I'm going to cut. 7, I'm going to cut on the inside and check. There's normally a follow-up here. 7 is the same thing, I check. Okay? When I come up here, this cut is going to be almost like a mini sumbrata. At times, you won't even get to do that. You'll just kind of cut. This is going to go down to our final strike number 10. I'm going to hack with my forearm, not with the actual knife. I'm going to hack, check it up, and stab. Okay? So we go to the other side. Slowing it down, we have 1, dissect. 2, cut and check. 3, dissect and create space. 4, opposite angle. 5, space and cut. 6, space and cut. 7, on the inside and follow up. 8, on the outside and follow up. 9, off angle. 10, hack, close quarters, check, and finish. And then same thing, depending on what is presented first, it could be 1, it could be 10, it could be 5, it could be any angle. I'm going to react accordingly based off of my position, the distance between us, the timing of my technique, and of course what I know, right? Some people like to play a little bit more middle range. It's more rare when it comes to bladed weapons. Some people like to stay close. Some people like to pass and cut and be a little bit more counter-offensive. Some people like to be very almost like crippling, where they want to grapple you, right? So if he gives me an angle 1 and I do this cut, if I maintain this range here, then most likely I'm going to be cutting the follow-up strike or continuing to cut here. So if he follows up, I cut and I stay kind of middle range and I look for more offense, right? But if my preference or my style of play would be here, as soon as I get there, I'm going to look to enter inside, I'm going to look to grapple, we turn around, try to trap that hand inside here. That could be because I have a wrestling background, a jiu-jitsu background, or something a little bit more grappling. And that's not wrong. What's wrong is if you believe that this 10 basic strike template is going to be the be-all and end-all of the way you defend yourself from any one of these 10 strikes. So when you guys train some sort of set drill, a flow drill, to P2P, or even something just like the 10 basic strikes and blocks, always remember that it's a template and it's meant to be applied based off of your preference, your understanding, as well as certain physical variables like positioning and levels that kind of we go over in the basic and fundamental section of all of our techniques. The true skill is being able to jump in and out of a flow drill. So if you take this template that we just provided you guys, then try to break it up for 10 separate situations instead of one 10 count drill, if that makes sense to you guys. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you check us out, AnastacioCali.com. Link is in the description below. And until next time, catch you